Let's start with our first news. Charles Oliveira has finally responded to Nate Diaz after Nate claimed he would beat the dog out of Charles if they ever fought. As expected, Charles did not seem bothered by the trash talk at all. In fact, he looked completely calm and confident, making it clear that if Nate really wants the fight, he is more than welcome to step in and try to prove himself. Speaking in a recent interview, Charles addressed Nate's comments directly and made it clear that he sees the situation very simply. According to Charles, Nate has always been someone who talks a lot, and this latest round of trash talk is nothing new. Charles said that Nate has spent most of his career talking, building hype, and creating attention around himself. But when it comes to actually stepping in there and making things happen, Charles believes the facts speak for themselves. Charles pointed out that he is the one currently holding the belt that Nate likes to talk about. He reminded everyone that when Nate had the chance to fight for bigger opportunities in the past, things did not go his way. Charles made it clear that this is one of the reasons why he does not fully understand Nate's position right now. From Charles' point of view, if Nate believes something belongs to him, then the only real way to settle that is inside the cage. At the same time, Charles also made it clear that his main priority is still chasing UFC gold. For him, the biggest goal right now is getting back into title contention and understanding what the UFC wants to do next with the lightweight division. He knows there are a lot of moving parts behind the scenes, and he wants to stay focused on the biggest opportunities available. However, Charles also left the door wide open for a fight with Nate if the title picture takes too long to sort out. He basically sent Nate a direct message. If you really believe what you are saying, then come test yourself. Charles made it clear that he has no problem giving Nate the chance to back up all the talk. This response shows exactly why Charles remains one of the most respected and dangerous fighters in the sport. He is focused, confident, and never afraid of a challenge. Whether it is a title fight or a showdown with Nate, Charles looks ready for whatever comes next. Move on to another news. Ilya recently opened up about one of the biggest surprises he had earlier this year, and it involved the fight between Paddy Pimblett and Justin. According to Ilya, he genuinely believed Paddy was going to defeat Justin when they met back in January. That result shocked him because in his mind, the entire path toward the White House card was already starting to take shape. Ilya explained that from the very first moment the UFC announced the White House event, he had a strong feeling that he would be part of that card. He believed it was the perfect stage for him, and he was already mentally preparing himself for a huge fight on that night. Because of that, he started paying close attention to the lightweight picture and thinking about how everything could line up. When Justin was matched against Paddy, Ilya immediately started building a scenario in his head. He believed Paddy had the style, momentum, and confidence to get the job done. Ilya admitted that before the fight even happened, he was already imagining a future matchup with Paddy. In his mind, Paddy would beat Justin, keep his hype rolling, and then set up a massive showdown with him on one of the biggest cards of the year. Ilya said he was genuinely surprised when things played out differently. Instead of Paddy pulling off the win, Justin stepped in and shut down all that momentum in a huge way. That result changed a lot more than just one fight. It also changed how the lightweight division started to move and which matchups became realistic for the future. For Ilya, this was one of those moments that reminded him how quickly everything can shift in MMA. A single fight can completely change months of planning, expectations, and potential opportunities. What seemed obvious before the fight suddenly disappeared once the cage door closed. Still, Ilya made it clear that none of this changes his confidence. Even though he expected Paddy to win, and even though that outcome would have created a different path for him, he remains fully focused on what comes next. He has always believed that big opportunities are going to come his way, no matter who is standing across from him. This situation just shows how unpredictable the sport can be. One upset can change everything overnight, but for fighters like Ilya, the mindset stays the same. Stay ready, stay focused, and be prepared when the next massive opportunity arrives. Move on to another news. Chael Sonnen has made it very clear that he is not impressed with the upcoming light heavyweight title fight between Jiri and Carlos Ulberg. While many fans are excited to see two dangerous strikers compete for gold, Chael believes this matchup is missing the bigger names and stronger storylines that should come with a championship fight. Chael did not hold back when discussing the bout. He openly questioned why a world title fight at 205 pounds is happening without some of the division's biggest and most compelling contenders. In his view, fighters like Khalil Rountree, Jamahal, and Ankalaev all had stronger cases to be in this spot. Chael argued that each of those names brings more excitement, more momentum, or a more proven resume than the two men fighting this weekend. According to Chael, the biggest issue is not just who is fighting, but the lack of real buzz around the matchup itself. He said the storyline going into this fight feels weak, and he believes fans are not as emotionally invested as they should be for a title fight. In his eyes, a championship bout should feel massive before fight night even arrives, and he does not think this one has reached that level. Chael even went as far as saying that, in his opinion, neither Jiri nor Carlos is truly the right choice for this title opportunity. He described it as a situation where the UFC ended up with two wrong guys instead of one clear and deserving contender. That was easily his harshest criticism, and it shows just how strongly he feels about the booking. At the same time, Chael admitted there is nothing anyone can really do now. Fight week is already here, the promotion is locked in, and the event is moving forward. He acknowledged that not even the best promoter in the world can suddenly create a perfect storyline at the last second if the matchup itself does not naturally sell. Some fans have also pointed to this situation as more proof that Ankalaev may never have been the UFC's preferred champion. After all, he had to put together a long win streak before finally getting his opportunity, while other fighters have sometimes been pushed faster because of timing or fan appeal. Still, regardless of the debate, Jiri and Carlos are now set to battle for the belt, and both men looked locked in during their latest face-off. No matter what Chael thinks about the build-up, once that cage door closes, everything changes. This is still a high-stakes title fight, and both men have the chance to deliver something special. Move on to another news. The UFC has officially revealed a big update for fans of The Ultimate Fighter, as the long-running reality series is set to return for its 34th season. It is honestly hard to believe how long this show has been around, considering how many stars it has helped introduce to the world over the years. Even after all this time, The Ultimate Fighter still remains one of the most important platforms for rising talent trying to break into the biggest stage in MMA. This time around, the UFC is bringing back two very familiar faces to lead the teams. According to recent reports, Daniel Cormier and Bisping have officially been named as the coaches for Season 34. This will mark the third time that both men have served as coaches on the show, which adds an extra layer of history and rivalry to the upcoming season. For longtime fans, this coaching matchup is especially interesting because both Daniel and Bisping have strong personalities, deep knowledge of the sport, and a natural ability to connect with younger fighters. They are both former champions, both respected analysts, and both understand exactly what it takes to compete at the highest level. That combination should make for a very entertaining season. The new season will reportedly focus on two divisions, bantamweights and women's strawweights. That means fans can expect a lot of speed, technique, and non-stop action throughout the competition. These divisions are known for their pace, sharp striking, and technical grappling. So there is every reason to believe this season could produce some future standouts. The Ultimate Fighter has always been more than just a reality show. For many athletes, it is a life-changing opportunity. Fighters come in with everything on the line, trying to earn a UFC contract, build their name, and prove they belong among the best in the world. The pressure is real, and the journey often creates some of the most memorable stories in the sport. Another interesting detail is the timing of the launch. The new season is expected to premiere on June 14th, which is also the same day as the UFC's highly anticipated White House card. That makes the date even more significant for fight fans, as it could turn into one of the busiest and most exciting days on the UFC calendar. Between the return of The Ultimate Fighter, the coaching dynamic between Daniel and Bisping, and the stacked divisions involved, Season 34 already feels like a big moment for the sport. The UFC clearly wants to keep building new stars, and this show remains one of the best ways to do exactly that. Move on to another news. Joe Rogan has shared a major concern about the UFC's upcoming White House card, and his biggest issue has nothing to do with the matchups themselves. Instead, Joe is worried about the conditions fighters could be forced to deal with if the event goes ahead as planned, outdoors in Washington, D.C., during the middle of summer. While the idea of a White House UFC card sounds historic and exciting on paper, Joe believes the reality could be far more complicated. He explained that asking elite fighters to compete outside, especially in extreme summer heat and humidity, creates serious risks that should not be ignored. For Joe, this is not just about comfort. This is about fairness, safety, and performance at the highest level of the sport. One of Joe's biggest concerns is the brutal weight cut process fighters already go through before stepping into the cage. Many athletes spend days dehydrating themselves to make championship weight, draining their bodies just to hit the limit. Joe pointed out that putting those same fighters into heavy heat and humidity shortly after a hard weight cut could seriously affect how they perform and recover. He also mentioned that outdoor conditions bring too many unpredictable variables. Rain is one of the biggest concerns. A sudden downpour could completely change the surface of the cage, while making movement dangerous and affecting the quality of the fight. Joe even brought up smaller but very real issues, like bugs and mosquitoes. As strange as it sounds, distractions like that can matter when two world-class fighters are locked in a high-pressure battle. Joe made it clear that, in his opinion, championship-level fights should happen in a controlled environment, not in conditions where weather can suddenly become part of the story. He believes fighters already deal with enough pressure inside the cage without adding outside factors they cannot prepare for. He also referenced past outdoor events that were affected by weather, pointing out that some previous shows became chaotic because of rain and poor conditions. That experience only makes him more skeptical about trying to stage such a major event in the open air. Another major issue is the timing. Based on recent weather patterns around that same time of year, Washington can get extremely hot and humid in June. Temperatures can push close to 100 degrees, and the added humidity makes it even harder on the body. Even if both fighters deal with the same heat, Joe argues that does not automatically make it fair. For Joe, when world titles and careers are on the line, the focus should be entirely on skill, preparation, and performance, not on surviving unpredictable weather. That is why he believes the White House card, while historic in theory, comes with some very serious risks. Move on to another news. Ilya has finally responded to the recent comments made by Islam regarding why their highly anticipated fight never came together. And it is clear that Ilya is not buying the explanation being pushed from the other side. Over the past few weeks, this story has become one of the biggest talking points in MMA, with fans trying to figure out what really happened behind the scenes. As most people know by now, Ilya is officially set to face Justin on the UFC's White House card. But despite that massive matchup being booked, much of the attention has still been focused on why the fight with Islam fell apart. According to Ilya, the UFC had been seriously working on making that fight happen for the June 14th event, and for a moment, it looked like everything was close to being finalized. Ilya previously confirmed that the matchup was nearly done, but then things suddenly changed. He said the UFC later informed him that Islam was dealing with an injury, which immediately changed the plan. Once that happened, the focus shifted, and Justin became the next option. After that, Islam publicly claimed that the fight was never really close because Ilya and his team were asking for too much money. But Ilya clearly does not agree with that version of events. Speaking recently, he said Islam's explanation sounds like a lie because he knows what truly happened during the negotiations. Ilya also made it clear that in his opinion, fighters should not concern themselves with what another athlete is asking to be paid. He said he does not count anyone else's money, and whatever another fighter earns is between them and the UFC. For Ilya, that part of the story should never be used as an excuse. He then took things a step further by saying, "This is not the first time Islam has had reasons why the fight could not happen." In Ilya's eyes, it now looks like a pattern, and he admitted that from the outside, it definitely feels like Islam may be avoiding the matchup. At the same time, Ilya stayed surprisingly calm about the whole situation. He said he is not losing sleep over anything that is outside of his control. For him, there is no point wasting energy on frustration or disappointment over things he cannot change. Ilya believes that if the fight is meant to happen, it will happen eventually. He said he still hopes they finally meet later this year, possibly after he handles business in his next fight. His mindset remains simple: stay focused, stay ready, and trust that the big fight will come when the time is right. Move on to another news. Renato Moicano has revealed just how much pressure he was carrying into his most recent fight, admitting that a loss last weekend could have pushed him towards seriously walking away from MMA. While he is not retiring now, Renato made it clear that the stakes for him mentally were much bigger than most fans probably realized. Coming into his main event against Chris Duncan, Renato was in a difficult spot. He was trying to bounce back after 2 straight losses, while also dealing with growing criticism about how he was balancing his fighting career with his work outside the cage. Over the past year, Renato has become more active on YouTube, building his platform and creating content. But not everyone believed he was still fully locked in as a fighter. According to Renato, a lot of people were questioning his focus. He said there was constant talk from fans and critics claiming that he was spending too much time online and not enough time in the gym. People were saying he had become more of a content creator than a serious athlete. Renato clearly took that criticism personally. He explained that those comments were frustrating because they did not reflect the truth. Renato said he was absolutely training, putting in the work, and taking this fight as seriously as ever. But despite knowing how hard he had prepared, the pressure still built up because he understood what another loss might mean for his future. Renato admitted that, deep down, he had already started thinking about what life would look like if things went badly against Chris Duncan. He said there were moments before the fight when he genuinely thought that if he lost, his MMA career might be over. Not because he had made a final decision already, but because losing again would have forced him to take a hard look at everything. He said if he had been the one leaving the cage battered and beaten up, the questions would have hit hard. Renato spoke honestly about the brutal side of the sport, saying that beating people can feel easy compared to dealing with the damage and punishment that comes when things go wrong. That reality can make any fighter question whether the sacrifice is still worth it. Instead, Renato got the result he needed, submitting Chris Duncan in the 2nd round and reminding everyone that he is still a dangerous and highly skilled lightweight. More importantly, the win gave him clarity and relief after carrying so much doubt into fight week. For now, retirement is off the table. Renato is still here, still competing, and still proving that his passion for fighting remains stronger than the outside noise. His latest performance was not just a win in the cage, but a huge personal victory as well.